Welcome to the Mindful Healers podcast with
Dr. Jessie Mahoney
and Dr. Ni-Cheng Liang.
We are here to help you learn to pause and be present, awaken your breath, and harness the ripple effects of mindfulness for radiant health.
We get you. We know you. We are you.
We have both been successful on the surface, yet struggling underneath. We have both had cluttered brains, been overwhelmed, and exhausted.
We're healers who have found solutions and want to share them with you.
Join us here to discover a better way.
Welcome to this episode of the Mindful Healers podcast. Decisions can be simple. A reminder that our podcast is not to be construed as medical advice.
The intention of today's episode is to help you see that it's possible for decisions to be simple, even important decisions.
We hope that by listening to this episode, you'll discover how mindfulness and intention can help with decision making, and that the act of making decisions can provide relief, perhaps from rumination, and it makes the circumstance in general much less burdensome.
We hope that you will leave today's episodes with some specific, actionable, mindful coaching tools that will help you make decisions more easefully.
So some time for reflection upon hard or complicated decisions that people are making right now, especially in the midst of the pandemic. Like, should I get help? Should I send my child to daycare or school? Should I travel? Acknowledging that many vacations from last year were postponed. Many celebrations and events were postponed. And here we are faced with the decision yet again about postponement. Or even, should I even go to the party? And recognizing that as much as we might dislike this, the fact that some of our patients are facing some anguish about whether or not to get the vaccine for COVID-19.
And this appears to be a moment in time when many people are being called to make big life decisions. The pandemic has led many to question their life path, how they want to live this, as I like to call it, the one wild and precious life that Mary Oliver refers to in her poem Summer's Day. So many are making decisions about whether to stay or leave important relationships, jobs, some medicine. And so it's the process of making these decisions and how can we make decisions more easily and limit the amount of time and energy that we waste making decisions is why we decided to bring up this topic as a podcast episode. And I come to this topic very knowledgeable of the experience of having trouble making decisions. And before I discovered coaching and mindfulness, I realize now that I was very much a tormented decision maker. I made all decisions complicated because I was an overthinker. And so I always wanted to make what was the best decision. And I spent a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of angsty emotion weighing the options, trying to predict and determine outcomes that were likely completely out of my control. And I would make decisions based on a decision that would have the best outcome when I couldn't control the outcomes. And the pandemic is actually a perfect example. Everyone's trying to calculate what the outcome is, but we don't know. And then I would judge my decisions by the outcome and how they turned out in the future, which is not very helpful. So none of these approaches led me to a life of feeling calm or feeling in control. And they were not what I would call mindful decision-making. And then I added to my own suffering and struggles. Because decisions tormented me, I wanted other people to also weigh in and help me make decisions and share in my burden of decision making. And I wanted them to like the decisions that I made and approve and validate my decisions. And so all of that added to my own suffering. What I discovered through mindfulness and intention and mindset work is that decisions can be much more simple. And these tools helped me make some hard decisions and really tap into what I wanted for my life and to own it and to make decisions where the outcome was 100% not secure, not known, not certain. But then that when you listen to your heart, you can have your own back when you make a decision and quiet the mind chatter. So I encourage you to think about that and try to tap into your heart and quieting your mind chatter. And notice what is getting in your way of making decisions from a place of more ease. So, Nicheng, have you found that mindfulness has helped you make decisions, or being a more mindful human has made making decisions easier?
Absolutely. So mindfulness has helped me have a clear lens of the circumstance and the choices in the decision. It's helped me simplify the considerations of the different choices, notably. It also helps me recognize when there has been excessive rumination, when the monkey mind is present, when so many thoughts start occurring that sometimes may or may not be related to the actual choices or the decision that needs to be made. And even when procrastination has potentially set in some ways because of the rumination, preventing a decision from being made. It's also allowed me to recognize when a decision needs to be made, especially the seemingly more difficult ones.
And I think noticing that when a decision needs to be made, that's a big part of the decision that we often neglect. And so we focus on the decision we're making and not when it needs to be made, and whether we are procrastinating and stalling and making a decision. I like to think of mindfulness as, and even the breath, as a way to defog your glasses, or as lens cleaner, as you said. The other way that I think about it, and for me, yoga and mindfulness practice really help me with this, is to settle the snow globe. And so often when we're making decisions, we have all that swirling snow in those little shakeable snow globes. And mindfulness, when you sit and pause, can actually allow it to settle or clean your lenses so that you can see more clearly where you want to go and what decision will be the one that you would like to choose. So I wanted to offer some mindful coaching tools that make decisions more simple and more easeful. And the first tool that I want to offer is to focus on how you want to feel in the future. So we often focus on the decision itself or what it would look like, and countering all of these complex thoughts in our brain. But when you tap into your heart and really tap into how you want to feel in the future, not where you want to live, but how you want to feel, or not who you want to be with, but how you want to feel in your life, it's much easier. And so if you want to feel love, peace, or kindness, that actually tapping into that feeling as you think about the decision can guide your decision making. Many people will say, when asked this question, I have no idea how I want to feel. And mindfulness allows you the stillness to begin to explore that and to listen to your heart, is what I often say. So listen to your heart, hand to heart. For me, I have to close my eyes, because if my eyes are open, there's too much input and I can't listen. It's just I'm too busy or distracted. Another tool is to ask your future self. And when we step out of ourselves, that's sort of another mindfulness tool, and to pause and say, what would me 5 years from now want? How would she want to feel? And then when you've come up with those feelings, you can ask yourself the question, what would love do if you want to feel love? Or what would peace do? And it's not just for others, which is our habit, but for you. And we've mentioned this a few times in the episode. What would love for you do? And what would love for others do? Or what would peace for you do? peace for your loved ones, and peace for the world. And that can make the decision a little bit easier coming from outside of yourself. Asking helpful questions is the second mindful decision-making tip I would share. And one that's new that we haven't mentioned in previous episodes is, what if both decisions turned out well? Which one would you pick? And that really helps you tap into your core values and your alignment and your heart, listening to your heart. And that often gives people a very clear answer. And once again, I will offer, when I ask that question, hand to heart with my eyes closed, the answer is much more clear than with all of the other input. And even better when I take a few breaths and just pause and am present with the question. So then once you have given yourself this information and you have a decision and you're going to move forward with a decision, rather than letting yourself flip-flop back and forth, you can actually choose to have your own back. And this, to me, was a total epiphany. You can choose to be at peace with your decision, no matter what the outcome is. And this is actually a form of showing yourself kindness and compassion that we talked about in a previous episode. It's mean to yourself to make a decision and then second guess and double guess all of the things that you've decided, or to regret your decision. And so realizing that regret is optional, and that the second guessing and what I call the negative what ifs, it turns out badly, or catastrophizing how it might turn out, those can just be bad habits. We let our brain tell us that we're in danger and we've made a bad decision. But even if you've made a good decision, your brain is likely going to offer the option that it's not a good decision. And so some helpful thoughts that I use, and many physicians actually also use, in particular when a decision may not have turned out like you thought it would. This thought, you've made the best decision you could in the moment with the information and skills that you had available at the time. And then you have your own back. But remembering that these conflicted feelings will pop up, and they usually pop up because the decision was important, it mattered, or you loved the person, or you love something, there's tremendous emotion about it. There's not a problem. It doesn't mean you made a bad decision. It's just a habit. And so I like to use the, of course, regret, doubt, conflicted feelings pop up, fear, anxiety, and that's because we're human. And then the tool of just allowing that discomfort to let it pass through more quickly. And the next tool I would offer is to realize that decisions are literally, I like to say, just a decision. They're just a fork in the road or a pivot. We add a lot of adjectives to things. And so I offer the opportunity to leave the adjectives off. It's not a good decision, a bad decision, an important decision, a complicated decision. It's just a decision. And remembering that you can take the next fork in the road and pivot again. And when you need to course correct, you just make a different decision in the future. The next tip is the fun one. Once you make the decision, you make it the right decision. So you've made the decision, you go all in and decide it's the right decision from that place. When you do that, it becomes the right decision. So if you decide it's a great decision and think of all the reasons why it's a great decision and all the things you can do to make it a great decision, it's fun and it becomes a great decision. And it can be a great decision no matter the outcome. It's when you second guess yourself and indulge in doubt about the decision and what if I made a bad decision, all of those things, you make your decision not as good a decision, and then it becomes not a great decision. A few other final quick tips that I think can really simplify decision making. Don't compare your decision to other people's decisions. This is beyond common for humans. We are all on different paths towards different dreams at different times. Their decision really has no impact on your decision. You can make an intentional decision to move towards something, and that is much more powerful than moving away from something you don't like. So I do believe it's important, if something's causing you harm, you should show yourself kindness and move away from it. But we often think about decisions about what we don't like, what we have, but we're not really moving towards something. And so a mindful decision is moving towards something that you want more of in your life, or that you aspire to experience. It's part of that one wild and precious life that you want to be living. It's a much more powerful an empowered way to make a decision than leaving something you just don't like, but you're not really sure where you're going. And then if a decision is easy or simple and there was no angst about it, that doesn't mean there's something wrong. I think often when a decision seems simple, we start to say, well, that was too simple. And then we start to second guess it. So struggle around decisions is not needed. And if you have a clear answer, trust yourself. And the last mindful decision tip I would like to share is that for those of you who are physicians, and actually for those of you who aren't physicians, but are in professions where you make decisions all the time, remind yourself that you are a professional and expert decision maker. And you have so much evidence in your life that you've made great decisions. And you can, I'm certain, come up with a list of many great decisions that you made in your life. And so trust yourself. And because you have all this evidence that you've made good decisions, it's evidence-based that you're a good decision maker. And so allow that to sink in and guide you as you move forward in hopefully making more simple and more mindful decisions. So how has mindfulness helped you make decisions? And do you have any tips that you want to share about mindful decision making?
Yeah, and you covered such great range and variety that resonates a lot with me. So you had mentioned values before. For me, having taken the time to get clear about my own values has been tremendously helpful, thanks to attending Dr. Yvonne Latour's Dare to Lead workshop, which was pre-pandemic. Authenticity and compassion bubbled up as my core values. And so those have enabled me to use as a compass. So when I'm faced with the decision, which choice would enable me to stay or become in alignment with my values?
I just want to offer that the other thing that you've brought up here about values, which is so important, is getting in touch with your values when you're not making a decision. So they're there and you're clear on those, and you're not trying to figure out those and make a decision at the same time, so that you have these core values and doing the work to understand that and use those as guiding light posts or lighthouses along the way. But knowing what they are when not faced with a decision makes life more simple and more easeful.
Yeah, thank you for calling that out. I definitely encourage our listeners to take some protected time to figure out what your values are if you haven't already. Next, I have a sign that sits on my desk. Do more of what makes you happy. And so that acts as a reminder for me, which choice would enable that to be true? Which choice makes me happy? And then another question that you can also ask yourself about the decision to be made is, which choice would be an act of self-care? And recognizing the discomfort that some of us might have in potentially letting people down because of a particular decision.
The other comment I wanted to make here is that some of us struggle with the idea of, is it okay to be happy? And do we deserve to be happy and joy? And like, can that be a part of our life? Because we have spent so much of our life doing what we thought we should, and achieving and being busy and helping and supporting others. And so this concept of just thinking about what makes me happy and is that okay, it might feel indulgent. And yet it is so important. And often making ourselves happy is the secret to bringing joy to others as well. And the same with the self-care. That what if you're not letting people down, but you're actually inspiring other people?
Self-compassion is an act of self-care, and we know that self-compassion begets more compassion for others. So choosing a decision that enables us to self-care is always the right decision to enable us to help others in the future. And you had brought up the deciding in the moment that we're doing the best we can. So trusting in that our histories as expert decision makers can help guide us with yet the choices that we have to make, knowing that you're doing the best that you can. And perhaps recognizing, especially because none of us can really predict the future, that the outcome might not be in our control. And so, what if you brought the decision making process back to this moment, this particular moment? You're doing the best you can. You're making the best decision that you can for yourself in this particular moment. And as always, we like to close our podcasts with some reflection questions. What decisions do you need to make now? And which of these tips we just shared resonate with you that maybe you could try?
What if a decision was simple? If you are struggling with making decisions, mindful coaching can 100% help. It helps you learn to implement these strategies and provides a guide to help you see where in your brain you are getting in your own way and making decisions more complicated and harder.
Mindfulness-based stress reduction helps cultivate the skill of mindfulness to clean your lens of perspective, to see things as they are, and helps you to see additional options in choices. I'll be offering with Dr. Karen Schiff another cycle of mindfulness-based stress reduction starting on September 19th. We'll leave the link for more information in the show notes if you're interested in learning more. As always, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please follow us, share the podcast, and leave us stars and reviews.
We wish you all many simple decisions in the week ahead. Please stay on for the mindful moment after the sound of the singing bowl. As always, if you want to declutter your mind, be more present, and start truly living your one wild and precious life, come find us at the mindfulhealerspodcast.com.
Work with one of us.
Work with both of us.
Start or up-level your mindfulness practice.
Discover how mindful coaching can change your life.
Or even better, do both as part of our Mindful Healers programs and retreats. You can find links to find out more about our programs and join our communities at themindfulhealerspodcast.com.
Reach out and get started on your journey to a life better lived today.
The content of this podcast is not meant to be medical or life advice. If you choose to participate in our mindful moments, please do so safely.
Welcome to today's mindful moment, a moment of presence. Take a moment to get comfortable wherever you may be, if it's safe to do so. Notice your feet on the floor or your sit bones upon your seat, and ground downward. Connect and settle wherever you are. Take in a long, deep, smooth inhale through your nose, and an exhale through your mouth. Bring your left hand to heart. Place it atop the heart space gently. Press your heel of your hand gently to the heart below. Bring your right hand atop and take a moment to connect with you, to come back to you. Take in a long, deep inhale through your nose and an exhale. Close your eyes if it's safe for you to do so. May you find your path, a kind way to explore potential next steps or potential decisions. What if there is no urgency? What if you gave yourself permission to explore? There are many different, beautiful paths ahead, different ones for different times in your life. No scarcity and no urgency. Knowing there will be many forks and options ahead, none will be the right path. All paths have ups and downs. All paths have good and bad. What if there's no pressure in a decision? No pressure to make the right decision, just to merely make a decision. Take in a long, deep inhale through your nose and a smooth exhale. Connect your hands to your heart space once again and listen to your heart. Trust yourself, trust your inner knowing. What does it have to tell you? When you quiet the mind chatter with the breath and slowing down, what does your heart have to say? What if you followed your heart? Perhaps your brain goes to worry. What if? What if something happens? Take in a long, deep inhale once again and a smooth exhale. What if great things happen? What if you try a path and you don't like it? You can always choose a new path. Each path you try will be part of the beauty of the journey. What if a decision was just choosing a path? Always with the option to choose another path. Simple, right or left. See what happens. And make another choice, then right or left. Once again, draw your attention back to your heart space. Does your heart space perhaps feel more spacious now with the thought that decisions could be simple? Bring your hands to heart center, press your palms together, press your thumbs into your sternum, once again connecting to that heart space. May you all be well. May you all be loved. May you all be safe. May you all make decisions simple, and may you find your path. Take in a long, deep inhale and a huge exhale. Lower your hands to your thighs. Open your eyes. Let the light back in. May you all have a beautiful week. Namaste.